Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
We're doing well. We're well into the preseason now, and we're starting to get a little bit of taste of what this team's going to look like. I'm excited.
And before we get started, can I just say one thing? Do we really need – now, don't get me wrong. Regular season playoffs challenges are great. But do we really need challenges in the preseason?
Yeah, you would think that you'd think we didn't, unless it's just to kind of stick it in the ref's face to let them know from the start that they're blowing calls. But yeah,
right.
I think we can just speed the game on running clock.
I mean, now granted, people paid to watch the game. People are watching on streaming. These rookies and younger guys, this game is important to them. Actually, we'll talk about it, but that's New York game kind of felt like a playoff game in a way with some of the intensity, the going back and forth between DiVincenzo and Randle and Anthony Edwards. That one possession where he's guarding where he's guarding Jalen Brunson and he's like clapping at him. I've never seen that before in a preseason game.
I think there's something changing with our identity, the Timberwolves, where we're just no nonsense. Like we're about just putting in the work. We moved, like we talked about last episode, we moved guys like D'Lo. We moved guys like Karl Anthony Towns. We moved guys like Slow-Mo, guys that don't really have a tough guy persona, don't have really the grit persona. Those guys aren't on the roster now, and our whole roster is full of guys that are gritty and are about that action. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to see what happens.
Absolutely. Now, let's get into it. So FanDuel came out with their over-under win predictions. By the way, this is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast, and please, I'm imploring you, if you're listening on Spotify and or Apple, please give us a rating. Let us know what you think of the show. It's very easy. Just click on the stars on Spotify, and on Apple, you can leave us a comment and tell us what you think of the show. Please give us a rating. It's very important. Helps us grow. So if you like the show, let us know. Anyway, let's get into it. So FanDuel released their over-under wins. So I just want to come straight out. Right now, the Wolves over-under 51.5 wins. So basically, if you go over, it's 52 and above. You go under, it's 51 or lower. First of all, do you think that's fair? Second of all, would you go over-under?
We've talked about this before. I'm not a big fan of guessing wins because there's so much I can go into that. But just looking at last year, the top three seeds were 57, 57, 56 wins. The fourth seed Clippers was 51.
Right.
They have us, you said, at 51, you said?
51 and a half. 51 and a half.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I would take the over. I think we're going to be a better team over. I think that – I think we're a better team, and I think we're the same type of team that's going to bring it every day to get a high win total. Like we're going to be any Rudy Gobert-led team or team that has him on it, I think has high season win totals just because they bring their lunch bucket every day type thing. There's no lazy days off kind of games. So I think we should probably end up being, I would say, over 52.
I would agree as well. And like you were saying, just look at that preseason. Now, granted, it was the Cat game, and DiVincenzo has a lot of connections over at the Knicks, and I don't know all the specifics of that, but you see what kind of intensity they're bringing in a preseason game and these kind of hard-nosed, every possession counts kind of thing. That'll rub off on the team. And like you said, I think we got a bunch of and I've been listening to Score North a little bit, and they call them dogs. I think we do have a lot of dogs on this team. And what I've loved so far about these preseason games is the team's non-afraidness to put up the three ball. And I have some stats on that. I know we talked about this last podcast, but so far in the preseason, now some of these are second half where you got like Josh Minott chucking up threes, but as a team, we are averaging 45 threes attempted a game in these three preseason games. Who led the NBA's in 3-point attempted last year? The Celtics with 42 and a half. So we in now small sample size, three preseason games, but we are outpacing them at this moment. And I think that's going to be key. And another stat that I have here, Dante DiVincenzo has been awesome so far in this preseason. And he's not afraid to shoot as well. He's 12 for 22 from the field, 7 for 13 from 3. And what I love about this team is, unlike Cat, and I know it has to come up, this team isn't afraid to chuck up the 3 ball. They're not afraid to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Cat is who he is, and I don't want it to be like a season long of bashing Cat, but no. I mean, we've had multiple seasons of doing it, so I don't know why we should change.
Right.
But there's certain players that are kind of interested in their box score and how it's going to translate into bonuses or awards that they get or recognition.
Right.
Karl Anthony Towns, I think even D'Angelo Russell kind of have some of that to them. I think we have a team now that's going to run the system, that's going to do what Finch wants. Finch wants the ball flying around. He wants open shooters. Like, he wants it to move to the open guy. And when you get it, you need to shoot it. We won't have tentative shooters like we talked about an episode or two ago, where we had guys that are tentative shooters that kills the flow of the offense.
Right.
That's not going to be the thing. And we have so many ball handlers now, like so many play creators, that, I mean, it's going to be fast movement, and I think it's going to be a lot of 3-pointers. It's going to be a beautiful basketball.
And not only just 3-pointers, because it's one thing to shoot 3-pointers. Now, Anthony Edwards does sometimes like to just dribble out of possession and put up a 3-pointer, right, which he actually hits at a good percentage. But it's not just putting up 3-pointers. It's the ball is zipping around.
Yep.
The ball is going all through the paint, all through the perimeter, and they're getting good shots. I would say, like, for example, the last game they put up, I think, 48 threes. I would say, particularly in the first half, probably 75% of them were good shots, where statistically that's the best shot you can take on the possession. And, right, it goes into, and I know, first of all, by the way, Wednesday, I'm so excited because Julius Randle's playing.
Yes.
Julius Randle's making his debut, and it's not going to give us all of the answers, but it will give us some of the answers of how a Rudy and Julius Randle front court is going to look. It's going to give us our first look. But I love and even the Minnesota Timberwolves put this on their Facebook page and Instagram and Twitter, what Anthony Edwards said to Johnny K about playing with Dante DiVincenzo.
Oh, yeah.
He said, "Effing incredible. I don't need the ball. You see it. I'm having fun, man. It's fun to play with Dante." So that's exactly what you want to hear out of the gates. I feel like, right, and I've heard that Ant is pretty good buddies as well with Julius Randle as well. So any thought, and I hate to keep bringing up Cat, but I have to for this. Any thoughts of, Cat's going to be Ant's going to be super depressed playing without his friend's Cat, or his friend Cat, I think are out the door. Like, I don't think that's an excuse, because I think Anthony Edwards knows that this team, they didn't, in trading Cat, they didn't say, hey, we're giving up on the Anthony Edwards led team. They're saying, no, this is Anthony Edwards' team, and we're trying to put better pieces around you, more aggressive pieces around you, more pieces that fit around you better to try to win a championship. And I think Anthony Edwards is buying in.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a dumb kid. He's a really smart kid. And I think even to go as far as saying him and Karl Anthony Towns were like great friends, I think that's a reach too. I think Anthony Edwards is friends with a lot of people. Probably everybody on the team. So
right,
like, I don't think that there was like some sort of bond or like, thing that's going to be heartbroken. And And like you were saying about the guys they're bringing in, we talked about this years ago when the Rudy Gobert trade happened. I said it's very possible that when Tim Connolly came in to this team and talked to Chris Finch, he said, "Do we have the leaders in this roster to push us to a title, to push us to a championship team? Do we have the makeup?"
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Finch honestly said, Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell are not the type of guys that are going to lead you to a title. They're not, and he's made moves otherwise to correct those problems. I think we have the guys in there now where it's like you have an identity. We play defense. We're downhill.
Yep.
We move the ball. We're aggressive. Like that's our identity. That's what we're going to give you every night. We're going to come at you from all different angles. The ball's going to be flying around and we're going to be in your face defensively. And if you can give me a team that does that, I mean, I'm going to sign up for it every night. And I'm excited to watch it happen.
Oh, I'm so after Sunday night, after watching that Knicks game, I'm so excited.
Oh yeah.
For the season. If I wasn't excited already, I'm excited now. The only thing of caution, and I almost hate to bring this up, but the last two stats here that I'll let you kind of respond to.
Yeah, let's hear them.
The last time the Timberwolves went to the Western Conference Finals, the next year they were projected to win 55 games. Yeah. How many did they win? 44. The other stat, and this is a little random, but I'm going to throw it at you. The last three teams to make, and this is actually kind of crazy, the last three teams to make the Western Conference Finals and lose did not make the playoffs the next year. And these are the teams. 2021, the Clippers. Obviously, we remember that. The next year, the Wolves beat them in the play-in. Year before that, Dallas, who they had some injury bugs, which was pretty much why they went down. They actually missed the play-in. And then 2023, the Lakers were the 9th seed and didn't make it into and made it into the play-in, but didn't make it into the playoffs. Your response to that?
I have a hard time really connecting a lot of that stuff because it's like, completely different people, but it's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy to say that's happened that many times. I would be willing to say that we will make the playoffs this year.
Oh, I think so too. I had to throw that. I saw that and had to throw that in there.
It's crazy. And going from number 1 to 44 wins is wild. I'm trying to look at that roster right now to see what happened. And, we had pretty much everyone was healthy. We just, there's a different type of team. There's some teams that get to the Western Conference Finals and they think they made a great accomplishment and they pat everybody on their back and they had a great year. And then there's other teams that think like, oh, that wasn't enough. That's just a start. Like that was a taste. I hope that we're that second team that isn't happy with the success we had last year and is going to go out and dominate this year from the start.
Right. And I love what you said a little earlier in this podcast about identity of this team, because in the past, the Wolves just didn't have the players to have an identity. Even think back to even the Jimmy Butler team. What was the identity of that team?
Well, I mean, it was the same sort of thing where they're different styles of player. You've got the downhill dog who is just a hard worker in Butler. And then you've got the other guys that were like Wiggins, D'Lo, and Cat, who are not D'Lo, but Wiggins and Cat, who are like the finesse, like super skilled, but didn't have that dog mentality. So like there's too much conflict. Now I think it's all on the same page. That's the beautiful thing is you don't have a star that is a completely different style than the other star. Like we're just going to keep coming at you 48 minutes. Doesn't matter who's on the court. We'll sub a guy in or two. Doesn't matter because they're starter quality guys that are coming at the same spirit and the same energy.
And kind of a curveball question for you, because I was having this debate with my dad as we were watching the game. How much run do you think Joe Ingles gets? Because I think he gets a little initially, maybe like 8 or 9 minutes a game. But then if the rest of the offense is clicking, like if Rob Dillingham shows something or Terrence Shannon Jr. shows something, I honestly think he's like the 10th guy on this team. I don't know if he plays that much.
Yeah, so I'll start out by saying I'm a huge Joe Ingles fan.
No, I like him too. I don't see
been.
room. I don't see room for this.
It's very possible that, and like you said, it might be till the All-Star break type thing. It's very possible that Chris Finch is going to want Conley and or Joe Ingles on the court at all times, just to have
an
adult in the room to keep the ball moving, to keep guys positioned, to keep things spaced. I saw, like we talked about in our Joe Ingles thing before he even showed up in the Timberwolves camp or in Minnesota, we talked about him running the show. Like he's going to run point guard. Like he brought the ball up and ran point sometimes. Like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how to see what happens after Mike Conley leaves the court. If it's going to be Dante as a point guard, that's what it's kind of looked like so far.
I don't mind that.
No, I think it's great. Or maybe it's going to be Randle who will pretty much run point. He's done that parts of his career, and you know what? Maybe it'll be Dillingham. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know the answer to that question. I would say if I'm counting down the roster spots, there doesn't seem to be enough spots for him to play very much.
Yeah,
but I also could see him get every small forward minute after McDaniel. So some nights that can be quite a bit when he gets in foul trouble.
Right. And this kind of goes into what I want to talk about next, where we saw Josh Minott get a lot of minutes against the New York Knicks last night. Could that be a preview for what we'll see with Chris Finch this season? Because all reports from training camp were that Josh Minott had a great offseason. He looks great in the gym. He looks ready to take the next step. So I wonder if Chris Finch has courage in him enough to play him maybe, 10, 15 minutes a night. It's with some spot minutes. I don't know if his shot's there, but I mean,
in preseason has been hitting it. Yeah, it's hard to say. I would, if I had to be a gambling man, I would say he's another year away from consistent minutes of any kind at all. I would say that we're going to have sustain an injury to somebody before he's going to even get multiple games of game time in a row type things. I think
so. Yeah.
It's just like we've been saying, we are so deep. And it's not really a knock on Minott, and he might have made a huge jump, but I mean, you're going to have to jump over some, long-time NBA vets that have been successful and know how to play the game to get some minutes right now. So I don't think he's going to be in the factor. I would be surprised if it's not just Joe Ingles as the backup small forward, unless we go 3-guard lineup and, have Anthony Edwards there and Dante and another guard, which I think is, might be even more likely.
And it's almost like a little yin and yang off the bench where Joe Ingles kind of he's a little slower. He gives you a little more methodical play, almost, and I know you're going to hate this, but almost a little like Kyle Anderson. I'm not saying he is Kyle Anderson who can shoot, and then you get the other, you give him a different package with Josh Minott, who is like high flying. He's going after every rebound. He's active out there. He's hungry, trying to earn his spot, trying to earn his way in the NBA. And so we might have a nice kind of contrasting styles where like you were mentioning, if the Wolves are just going too fast and you want to slow things down a little bit, let's think a little bit here. Let's throw in, particularly if Conley's out there, let's throw in a Joe Ingles to kind of calm everything down. But if we're playing slow, you want to go a little faster. You want a little more youth out there. Maybe throw in a Minott for a couple minutes. And I'll say this: the best friend to Josh Minott, I'm not saying the team, but to Josh Minott, is going to be if Jaden McDaniels is in foul trouble. Right. If Jaden McDaniels is in foul trouble, like we saw in the Knicks game, there's a way better chance that Minott gets on the court.
And there's a pretty good chance that Jaden's going to be in foul trouble. So
Yeah. Yep.
let's just assume that. Yeah, no, I mean, it's very real. It's kind of like what happened when we first saw Vanderbilt and we're like, oh, this guy has something.
Right.
Like you don't
Right.
quite know what it is or where it can fit. Like I saw Minot taking on the lead guard, like defending the lead guard, which was, which is a feather in his cap. That's a nice thing to be able to pull off a bench, is have a guy that you can throw in on a point guard at his size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that Vanderbilt feel where you're like, we don't know what he's going to bring, but it's going to be high energy. And sometimes that's a huge addition. Sometimes that spark of energy can change an entire game. So I don't think he's not valuable. I just don't know where we'll be able to find it consistently.
And back to the point guard talk, you can't forget about Nickeil, which I think we're starting to see who Nickeil is. I don't think he's the greatest point guard ever, but I think what he's going to give you is solid. Like we even saw in that New York game, he had like 2 steals that led to wide open basket. He's going to be plus on the defensive end. He's going to shoot around 33% from 3. He doesn't look like he's afraid to put it up, which is good. Yep. So yeah, kind of a change of pace where and that's what I love about this team makeup. We were talking about Ingles versus Minot, the change of pace. Nickeil's can go to the basket, but he's going to be more likely to shoot a 3, whereas Rob Dillingham, if he's out there, he's going to be more of a Lou Williams type, like attack the basket, which I will say Rob Dillingham needs to get better at finishing among the trees, like among the big guys. He's had some struggle with that, but I think he'll learn. But that's another thing, a change of pace between
we have
the
so
two.
many.
I know. There's so many weapons you can throw out.
Yeah, I mean, and then we've got, a guy like Rudy Gobert as the big plotting, lob threat defensive anchor. And then you've got guys like Nas and Randle that you could switch in and have them play the 5. And it's like a complete different, I mean, we've got so many things for Chris Finch to tinker with this team this year. I'm so excited to see what'll happen. I think the point guard is going to be fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I think needs to be remembered is Chris Finch isn't the point guard type guy. Like your point guard's not going to have 12 assists or 10 assists in a Chris Finch offense if the offense is going the way Chris Finch wants it to go.
Sure.
Like he wants this ball moving around. He wants multiple people making, the assist to the right play. Like he wants a point guard making the, hockey assist to this next pass to the next pass type thing. It's not an offense where you really pound the rock as a point guard. So some of it is what skill set can the guy that's going to be playing the 1 add to the offense, and like you're saying, you've got lockdown defender with Alexander. He needs to be a more consistent 3-point shooter for him to find his spot.
Right.
You've got Dillingham who can poke and prod, who can, get the defender on his back, slither in and out of the defense, is always on attack. That's got to be a nightmare to defend. Then you've got Mike Conley, who's a steely veteran that makes every right play. Then you've got, like we said, Ingles, who's 6'9", who's, another mismatch. I mean, it's going to be pick your poison for Finch, and if he deals the right cards, we could go really far.
I totally agree. One more thing that I want to bring up before we end the show a little bit: a Randle Gobert front court. You worried at all about that, or do you think because I think it's going to take some time. I really do.
I don't think it'll take any time. I think Randle was super. I mean, I know the front court of Randle and Robinson, which is like a lower budget kind of Rudy Gobert type thing, was super successful for the Knicks. Like efficiency rating was through the roof. Like they played awesome together. And even before that, he had Nerlens Noel there. So like he's used to playing with this type of center. I think it's going to work out well. I don't see any problems. I think Randall's a smart enough guy and an unselfish enough guy. And especially knowing that he's in a new setting.
Yeah.
Just like how Cat kind of forced some passes to Rudy, I think it's going to be more fluid from Randle just because he's a more fluid player. And I'm just excited to watch it happen. I think if there's anything that I'm excited about this season for the Timberwolves, I think it's for the average Timberwolves fan to really get some time watching Julius Randle. And I think pretty soon in the year, people are going to be like, Karl Anthony Towns who? Like they're going to fall in love with this guy, and it's going to be a clean sweep in our fans' attitudes on who won the trade.
I'm hoping so, and I agree with you. Anyway, let's put an exclamation point on it there. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, another day, another preseason game coming up. I think it's when's the next one? Wednesday?
Wednesday, yep.
I can't wait.
The debut of Julius Randle on a Wolves uniform. Big number 30 coming your way.
I love it.
And this is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast. Again, I want to reiterate, please take the time, if you have time, which I'm sure you do because you listen to a podcast, make sure to give us a rating on Spotify and or Apple, preferably 5 stars. But if it's just give us the star rating you think we deserve. We would love to hear your opinion. You can write a little description of what you think of the show, a little comment on Apple. So we'd love it if you do that. It really helps us grow the show. And as always, go Wolves.